welcome folks. Mil-Spec Ops Monkey here. Listen, this is going to be your SITREP. It is 10/12/2022, 11 a.m. Central Time, and it is Wednesday, Hump Day, coming to you from the great state of Texas. And so without further ado, let's hop on over to the board and check out what we've got going on now. As we dig in here at Skyglass, you can see pretty heavy compared to what we've had, showing 609 total aircraft up. Now that's worldwide military, but that is an increase. Actually, it's significant compared to what we normally see. Average is about 250. So, but how does that break down? We've got, looking at Tex 2s, we're sitting at 113, T-38s 46. Those are trainers, which means we've got a lot of trainers up. Of course, it's October. They got a new pocketbook full of money to go out and fly and do the training, because that is how their year starts and ends. And so that's probably why we have the uptick in the trainer activity. From the tanker perspective, got a lot up, 30 of them up right now. We've got 24 H-60s, and we'll look closer at this here in just a second. I'm going to hit a refresh, and then we're going to, while that's refreshing, I'm going to bounce over to our watch list here. We can take a quick gander at what's going on around the world. And it's not totally light. It's not too shabby. We do have some Army intel bird right there along the border. Got an E3 Sentry up, just taken off out of central Oklahoma. And then if we get a little bit north of that, we do have Freddy 11. That's going to be your doomsday plane. For those not familiar, that's at 747. Looks a lot like Air Force One. And then we've got some Top Cats there, R-135s. Notice we do have one. Let me spin this a little bit. We do have one down here in the bottom, just getting airborne. That's going to be Snoop 52. I think I said 52, but nonetheless, it's an eye chart for me on OBS, by the way. So, and then, of course, we have a lot of Homeland Security birds up. You got one coming out of South Florida. We've got one up here near Jacksonville, and another one leaving Jacksonville. And let's see what else we got. A couple P8s, P3s that are up right now. We'll look closer at another P3 in a second, but that one, we just getting airborne. That is going to be 752 Whitetail, which is, they typically, those are the Terra birds or the Air Force Command, but they also use them for crisis situations. More Homeland Security, 2 of them up. Again, Homeland Security. Kind of crazy to see all that. But then we get here, this P3. Looks like it's doing a little bit of work off of the northeast coast. Again, we expect to see an uptick in that. We're going to look at it. We baselined it the other day for the sub hunters. Let's get over to Europe and see what we've got going on there. Now, from a Europe perspective, really light from the watch list aspect. Okay. We do have that one. Notice the man in the middle turn. That's grabbing cell tower data. Looks to be over France, or I can't, kind of hard to see from that angle, but could be Luxembourg. Yeah, we'll see. Let's see what else we got out here. Anything? I think that does it for a watch list. I'm not seeing anything over our usual areas. So let's go ahead and break into our heavy lifts. That'll give you kind of a general idea. Not so many up, at least when I did this about an hour ago. But you can see we do have some movement going. It is definitely an uptick from where it was the other day. A lot of things rolling out of North Florida. And a lot of stuff up on the northeast over DC and that general area. And we get over here to Europe. It is a little more active in Europe. Get over thing to take us there. And but you expect to see that with all the things going on in the world. So, but you can see still kind of feeding the machine. We've got them running things out right up to those forward operating bases around Europe, and then some things. Definitely the hub out of the UK is no doubt about it. That's that kind of secondary location there. Some stuff going on right at the base of Portugal and Spain, and then look like some stuff headed southbound down into the Middle East, kind of near Cairo, and then that one over Saudi Arabia. So, all right, now that brings us to our next one. That's going to be the refuelers. We'll take a closer look at refuelers here in just a minute back on the Skyglass side. A little bit of legwork over the central U.S. and a little bit of South Florida side. That's probably feeding a lot of the fighter activity that's coming in and out of there. And then if we get over here to the Northeast, you can see our regular stuff over DC, a little bit of stuff over Pennsylvania, which is a little odd. Don't see that too often. Usually they're tied to where flashbang is, but I'm really seeing that. So um, let's get on over here to Europe. Let's see what we've got going on. Just a second. Internet today is acting up a little bit. So if you see this, the death spin on your screen, that's why we're getting pinged, and I'll show you here in a minute. Yeah, it looks like we got some fighter activity, maybe support over France in that general area. Not seeing anything else, nothing over Syria, nothing over the Middle East. So again, that has probably changed a little bit. As we get back over here to our main screen, let's just filter it by these air refuelers. Let's see what we've got. Let me get on down to the KD. There's H-53s are back up. That's kind of a cool go. Medical. Again, this is a good indicator of fighters. Anytime we see this. Yeah, we got 44 showing right now. So let's just let this think. Now, when I click on that little track or trace line right there next to the amount of aircraft and the aircraft type, that actually gives us the traces every 5 seconds over the last 24 hours. So it's why it's thinking. So when you got 44 aircraft up, you imagine snapping that chalk line every 5 seconds. That's what it does. And so it's, like I said, a very powerful tool. We'll give that a second to marinate. This is just the internet in general today has been giving me a little bit of a hard time. So while this is thinking, we'll come back to it here in a second. Let's look at aircraft mods, or should I say weather modification. This is kind of a telling story. Watch and see what they've got going on. Again, we'll come back to the tankers here in 1 second while this thing is continuing to marinate. But check this out. This is the last 4 days. So the last time we got together was Friday, and we talked weather modification. As you can see, a little bit of work there over, looks like Eugene, Oregon. Got some stuff happening over the central U.S. and over Texas. And then, of course, we got some things going on up here in, it looks like Minnesota or a south end of Minnesota. A lot of work there. Pay attention. Remember, these are the guys that are cloud seeding. And I think they do one of two things. And that is they're either causing it to rain or drying it all up. And I've seen both. So I know there's some folks that say they don't do the dry up piece. I maybe they don't, but I will tell you that it seems to be anytime I see them, I go back and look at the areas that they've hit, and it is either one extreme or the other, right? And so I'll show you that here in just a second. And I know I'm bouncing around on you a little bit. All right, this is going to be the tankers. Let me button this up, and then we'll get back over here to the weather side of the house. Yeah, that's pretty active, actually. Look at the amount of activity down here in this area. Keep in mind that's you're gonna have the fighter school down here for the Navy and stuff. So they were probably doing some air refueling activity there. A lot of stuff over the Northwest, all over the United States, slammed. So I must have just missed it as we were looking at it an hour ago. But looks like we've since had quite a few take to the air. And nothing really over Europe except for these down here over kind of Syria. So probably getting ready to do some more strikes. Got fighters in those areas. So, okay. Now, let me reduce this or minimize this. We'll continue on with the weather piece of it. I apologize for bouncing back and forth on you, but I thought it was an important data point. Now, remember, we were just looking at some activity here in the central U.S. We were looking at some cloud seeding right up here in this general area, right? Minnesota and Wisconsin. And just take a look at what's going on there. We do have some storms or a low moving through. But notice that we have red flags all the way up the middle. And again, lots and lots of high pressures around the U.S. And if you get over here, remember, we just saw this one that was up running some stuff here. Notice you now have a high pressure here. That's why I say I think they do both. There's something that they're doing that changes it up and dries it out. And nonetheless, a weather mod guy, I'm just tracking the flights. So just giving you the data. You guys can go dig in for yourself and figure out what they're doing. But this here, too, just keep in mind, These are space operations. Looks like we got a lot of that going on. This is going to be flashbang today and down here. So this map shows and it stands out a little better than the other NOTAM piece. Got to kind of look for it there. So let me minimize it. Get over here to the volcanic activity. Notice South and Central America still popping. And then out here, this is both Japan. And then this one here is also, I think it's off the island of Japan. It's Nishinoshima. And that one is, you can see it's just kind of off of Japan right there. But these are ash alerts. So basically pilots, they have to avoid those areas because they fly into them. That's why I show them, backs things up. All right, let's get over here to, speaking of weather mod stuff, this is going to be your NOAA. And again, this dude is, today is a little more sporadic. He's not following that perfect grid line. Maybe he's got an area that he's really trying to search. Remember yesterday it was kind of over here and we saw him doing some donuts. Today it looks like he is running some different routes. That's kind of weird how looks like we lost contact here, picked him back up here. Just kind of a weird, strange data feed. But again, he's only at 700 feet. That's pretty low altitude. If we go back and look at what he's doing yesterday, you can see back out here off of, this is Nantucket, back off of this area. Let's go to the day before. And we'll see on Monday, this is what we were looking at together, that little grid. And again, he got kind of spun out right here, was doing some little donuts, very low altitude, about 700 feet. Again, I think he ran across something that piqued his interest. He was trying to get better eyes on it. And then it looks like, if I back up this a little, he did it again right out here, another watch area. So he's looking for something, could be LiDAR stuff, could be sub stuff. There is no telling. I do know these things have all kinds of crazy capabilities that the general populace doesn't really know. But remember too, we just saw the P3 just north of that, right up here running around. So that's a Navy P3. So they may be looking for some sub activity or something out in this general area, but we're watching the P8s, the P3s. And speaking of that, let's kind of dig into what they are up to as we look at some of the other aircraft that are doing a lot of the searches. So segue in, this is going to be your sub hunters. These are P3s, P8s. Notice that just off that Baja coastline there near Mexico, you get out here, you expect to see a big launch coming out of Jacksonville Naval Air Station. That's what we're looking for in terms of the deviation. And then you get up here north side and notice you do have that P3. You can see it kicking off and kind of ending its transmit line. And also off of England, we're starting to see him kind of branch out a little bit looking for stuff. Same thing over here in the North Sea side of the house. And then we've got one little tiny one that is a launch and kill transponder. It looks like, notice it goes up and then it disappears. That's because they basically went dark. Notice that real dark line right through here. That's probably where that hunt for Red October is headed, through that area. It's a very deep water. Makes it a lot more difficult for them to find them. Then you get down here into the Mediterranean. You can see we got some stuff happening off of Malta. And again, these are sub hunters. And then you get over here, you've got a little more activity going on off the coast of Portugal. So let's see. And I want to say, yeah, we had something going on here in the Persian Gulf. It looks like that was just a takeoff and a landing, or at least not too much to it. I don't see any kind of search activity going on there. So, all right, that's going to be your sub hunters. Now let's look at our R135s. Again, these guys are mapping battlefields. I believe that the activity we see over the United States are calibration flights for the R135s. I think because they have the ability to they're probably locking down on silos and doing all the other stuff. When they run down south near the water, probably doing something a little different. And then, of course, when you look at it from here, these are not calibration flights. These are actually mapping stuff in the area. So they're looking at things along the Black Sea, right there along Moldova in general. And then we'll look at the actual nuke sniffer now, and you'll see that, well, actually, let me get over here. I do see something over the Middle East. Let's take a quick gander at that. Yeah, they're mapping stuff right along that Syrian-Iraqi border. You see that little snake tongue kind of out there. And that's just basically mapping the battlefield, right? They can track objects the size of a soccer ball from 300 miles away. So, all right, now this is going to be your RC-135s. This is going to be your sniffer. Okay, this is the one that's looking for nukes. Again, I think these are probably calibration flights, although that one that went down over Nevada, there's no telling. You know, they could be looking for stuff in the United States as well, you know, like Club Ks or something like that. But that looks to just be a repositioning flight, although they did do a little bit of work right there in that little corner near Madison. All right. So who knows? Let's get over to Europe, see what we got going on over there. And not seeing anything in our normal spot from a nuke sniffer. Now, we do have this one, which is just kind of down at the very bottom point of France, it looks like, north of Barcelona, just kind of flying in that area. Again, this is a nuke sniffer. And, you know, when you see those around, it's because they have a feeling something is out there, right? So, okay. Now let's look at the drones and see what's going on with the drones, because that's also going to continue to paint this picture for us of where all the real concern is. Okay, notice this coming out of Malta, like always. Again, there's that little snake thing where they're kind of going back out like the snake tongue, and right there at kind of the base corner of the Black Sea, but right over Istanbul, they could be grabbing stuff. And then you got a little drone that popped up out of Cyprus, and then another little drone popped up out of Portugal. All right. Those are the main things. I didn't see anything over the United States. So just kind of give you a general idea of where they're looking. And then this is going to be your civilian spy stuff, as well as the Swedish one, kind of like the Brio 68, running right along that border for Ukraine and Belarus. All right. Get over here to the U.S. and really nothing over here. So, all right. That's good for us. Okay. So, but yeah, those are going to be the civilian spy planes, just like civilian air refuelers. They go out and do a third party on things all the time. And so that's what we're seeing here. Okay. All right. Let's move on over here to Flashbang and his schedule today. Again, like I said, he's headed out to Colorado. Looks like Vail. And then from there, he's headed down to Los Angeles and probably on the campaign trail, you know, going out and giving some word salad. So let's take a look as we talk about this dumpster fire. And as you can see, his brokered railroad union deal is falling apart. Now, I do have an insider that is part of the Monkey Nation. Fantastic dude, gives me kind of insight as to what's going on relative to this vote. And then we've got a couple others, too, that reach out from time to time. But I will tell you, the unions are all voting this down. And so right now, it looks like this thing is going to fall apart. It won't impact the election. The reason he tried to pull it together was to actually boost some of the election side. But the unions seem to be riding this one out. And so after the election, we'll probably know where we settle in. If the railroad strikes, folks, that's going to be really bad for the United States and for our supply chain. So anyway, let's move on as we talk about his performance. Kremlin is scolding the West for provocative nuclear rhetoric. Now, that is important because keep in mind, too, there's a reason he's saying this right now. And I think it's because he wants to make sure it's very clear if something happens in the United States before the election that it wasn't him. And I say that because you got to remember, Biden has the lowest approval rating right now, or on a historic low of his entire presidency. He's really, really struggling to get out of kind of the 30 and 40 range, and from an approval rating side. And if you go into the actual split it up by the Democrats versus Republicans, it's uglier than that for some crazy reason. But we are kind of at that point. We're about 23 days out until the election, and we are primed for some type of an event here in the United States. And I say that because you think about 9/11, think about what happened after 9/11. Everybody just pulled together. They rallied behind Bush, and his approval rating went from, I think, down in about 45 up to like 90% overnight. And so That's what you got to be careful of. It also sways voters big time. Okay. So that's why I say we're at a high risk for any type or some type of a domestic event that would rally us. And Putin knows that. If he were to make a strike now or go to war with the United States, it would only strengthen the deep state and the current administration. And so I don't see him making any kind of war moves towards the United States prior to the election. Okay. That's just my personal opinion, but that's just what I think. Now, let's continue on over here to the next one, the West, and this is going to be your Bohica moment. And that, for those not familiar with that acronym, I'll say it a couple more times. Bohica is bend over. Here it comes again. The West meets pledge for more arms for Ukraine as Washington hails the gains. Now, they're talking about the gains that we are supposedly making in Ukraine, but I'm going to show you the maps, and it doesn't appear like that was a very long-lived moment, okay? But here it is. This is actually from the war zone. It says the U.S. has promised to deliver a rush delivery of NASAMS and air defense systems over to the area. It says also the Ukraine has just received 4 of the promised IRIS-Ts, SLM air defense systems, and Germany has promised 4 more HIMARS from the U.S. So, so we're pumping them full of these air defense systems. This is kind of key to pay attention to because you remember MH17 getting shot down. The problem you run into is you get troops going into the field that are not trained on this equipment, and they overreact and are very quick to respond to something. Remember, slow is smooth, smooth is fast, right? They don't practice that. They panic and they hit a button because they lock onto something, and they end up taking down commercial aircraft. If you look at Serbia and Croatia and those areas, remember Serbia, the Chinese just brought a whole bunch of missile air defense systems in to the region. And that's important because we still have a lot of commercial traffic flying over Serbia. So we don't need another incident like that, taking civilians down. And that's why you see a lot of that air traffic avoid Ukraine and Belarus for that matter. Okay. So again, just a lot of write-ups here. If you're not familiar with the fire control, it's just kind of how it works. You get a forward vehicle or another vehicle that kind of tie in and feed these systems. And these are all just radar systems that dispatch these, which are going to be your fire control, which are basically your missile pods. Okay. And so, again, here's one. This is going to be that IRIS-T coming from Germany. And then you get down a little further, you can see some of the other stuff. But here's one. You can see the launch there. But they will tear up an aircraft in a New York minute. So, all right, let's move on out of that. And further down the dumpster fire here, food cost jumps sparks hotter than expected U.S. Producer price inflation. Yeah, you can see it actually jumped up here for a little while. The only reason that it is showing down is because fuel costs right now at the gas pump are down. Now, that's only because we got an election coming up. And if you're fooled by that and think we're doing okay, then, can't help you. But what will happen is as soon as the election is over, you're going to see the gas prices go back through the roof. We're going to have another energy crisis. This is how it always works. But you can see the hump astronomically high compared to what it was. But this is your inflation. Again, it's because fuel costs at the pump are down right now. And that's because he has depleted our strategic oil reserve to do so. Okay. All right, let's go over to the NOTAMs. Oh, snap. It does it to me all the time. Let's pull this thing back in, tighten it up, see what we've got going on across the United States. A little busier than usual. Notice we do have a lot of stuff happening on the Canadian border, both sides, really. So we pay attention to that. A lot of this is going to be mill exercises going on. It's like Atlanta and Georgia and Alabama are getting hammered with some rain right now. Let's see, as we get past these boxes, again, here's a new watch box for us that's out in this general area. Looks like that runs to November 1st. And there's going to be mill exercises. And then this one here, notice, again, this is right on the border between Canada and the U.S. But this right here is very, very close to the HARP. So don't know if it's involved or not, but definitely paying attention to it. So, all right, as we go to the left, waiting for our screen to jive, Again, this is kind of what has been happening lately. And you'll see here, we're going to talk internet and the cyber attacks going on. And this is why you're getting the spool. But even if we don't look at the continents, you can see there is a lot of military exercise going on. We got this box north of Russia. And then these boxes are Russian too. And then, of course, we've got this is a NATO exercise off in that general area. Same thing here. And then as you get kind of drilled in to this general area, you just notice there are lots of independent little boxes, lots of border boxes still in play, very, very active over Europe. And a lot of the flights, when they're coming out of the UK, they're swinging right across here, across Italy, but they're also coming across into this general area, which is across Serbia, Croatia, etc. And I watched that because I'm about to be on one of those. So, all right, now on to the next one. Intel to fire thousands just weeks after Biden signs the chip stimulus bill. Yeah, you can see they say that personal computer market is basically crashing. Well, we kind of knew that. Where did all this stuff come from? Asia, right? And so to further on that, let's talk here as we're going to transition over to the Ukraine side of the house. We'll talk more about the Asian stuff in a minute. I'm going to show you some of the boats and the things that are going on because we got another story that ties into this also. Now, this is the current map as of about an hour ago, but it kind of updates, at least over here in the feed. It does. Notice these things here show a day ago. So this is kind of new data, say a day ago, within 24 hours. So just think of this as looking at it from a 24-hour perspective. But this is today. And notice the red dots here. These are going to be Russian troop movements, or not movements, but buildups, right? They're little base locations. Notice there's a lot more stuff going on up here near the Belarus side of the house. Zelensky is actually calling for NATO to put some air defense systems along this area. And that's what he's trying to do with the stuff that we just saw and we just talked about. But notice there's some fire happening out here, some of the launches. Now let's look at the map. I will tell you that the app on my phone works a little bit better than this one does. This one, you got to kind of snap the time clock up here in the corner. But if you look at what's happened over the last 3 days, you can see it is night and day active compared to what it was a week ago. Remember, a week ago we had a lot of blues. Now those blue round ones are actually inbound alerts for basically artillery or missile strikes coming in. And then just notice how far to the left it is, all the way to the border of Ukraine, all the way to the left side of the house. So it has definitely picked up over the last 3 days and gotten very busy. Again, if you look at this, this is most of these news reports here are showing from a day ago. And it is still, like I said, very busy, very busy. So we'll continue to watch it, monitor it, but this is a pretty good indicator. Now, let's talk here for just 1 second as we look at this map and segue into the next piece of this. And that is, remember back not too long ago how everybody started fact-checking things about these biolabs. Remember, this was one from NPR that said how the false Russian biolab story came to circulate among U.S. far-right. This was in March. All right. I want to show you something here. This is actually a site that these are your biolab locations. Okay. But this person has done, it's actually Dr. Jesse Santiano.com. But just drive. Okay. So first, remember, this is Crimea. Remember, these are the weapon locations. So we go back over here to our strike map and you can see if we pop off one of these, and there's no telling what's in these labs, but this is definitely the deep state related stuff, right? Now, this is where I get kind of wrapped around the axle here with these people that are doing the fact checks, because they don't really check themselves. They don't really dig in to find it. But look at this. This is the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine biological threat reduction program. And these are all the bioweapons. And here are the fact sheets, each one of them linking to those bioweapon locations. So these are all biolabs right here, folks. So again, you get these fact checks out here that are just rubbish. But the reason I'm pointing this out is because if we get back over here to our maps, notice here along this borderline, which is far west. And remember, this is Moldova. We've got a lot of Russian presence right in here. This is Crimea. This is Russia. And we got a weapons lab right here on the other side. We got one up here in Kiev. But this area right here is where our deep state is hot and heavy. So let's get over and again back to what we're looking at from the Ukraine maps. As you can see, yeah, we're getting pretty doggone close to hitting those things. So this is going to be really interesting to see what happens as they continue to pepper the region. Okay, so moving on. This is why that map is looking the way it's looking now and so active. This is the new guy, Sergei. He is the commander now leading the Russian attacks on Ukraine, and he's been described as absolutely ruthless by former colleagues. And we talked about that the other day, but no doubt about it, there is a significant uptick, and this guy means business. Again, Russia is pushing for Belarus to enter the war, and that's based on Ukrainian intel. I think we can see that in the making already, right? We see Zelensky asking for additional air defense systems to go to the north towards Belarus. He's starting to stage things up there and asking for a lot of help and a lot more money. So if they get engaged, that's going to expand the battlefield significantly, right? We get back over here where now you can actually see the map. Remember, Belarus is here. This is the border area where he is worried about it. This is where we see kind of the buildup along here in Belarus. Yeah, if it expands into here, then remember, Belarus has got Russian nukes in there. And then it kind of from here, you just go a little bit over to the left, and you've got Kaliningrad, which is a Russian, that's Russian land. I mean, that's part of Russia. And so, and then you get just to the north, and here they are. So that's going to put Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia in a very bad place very quickly if Belarus gets involved, okay? Because this is all Russian right here too. So keep your eyes on that. But I definitely think this is about to go to the next level, especially if Belarus gets engaged in this, okay? All right, so we talked about that. We talked about the labs. Let's move on over here to this aspect, and we're going to talk about the NATO stuff as we look at the NATO map for the general area. Again, what we're watching for are these guys to get out of port and get out into open water. Again, this right here is Kaliningrad. This is going to be Russia, right? Lithuania, Latvia. This is the area where the pipeline was struck. Notice that they got a lot of folks paying very close attention to this area now. Warships are all around it, and sea hunters, a French Navy ship, quite a few actually. If we get a little bit north of that, and you get back up, you can see out here in the North Sea, a lot of ships that are actually out of the docks and out in the open water. That's actually what we expect to see if we go to war. You don't want to be sitting in here, like I said before. But this area, notice how many are still in port. Not good. So good in the fact that we're not at war yet. But again, that's an area to pay attention to. Okay. All right. Now, here is another data point for you. Sweden is refusing to share results of the Nordstream pipeline explosion investigation with Russia. Yeah. And they're telling Russia, hey, listen, if you want to go do it yourself, go ahead. But remember, Sweden has gone and gathered up all of the evidence and taken it with them. So there's really nothing to find other than, a pipeline that's been destroyed and the remnants of what's there. So, yeah, they're probably not going to find much. But this is a very interesting. In Sweden, our preliminary investigations are confidential. And that, of course, also applies in this case. Yeah, they won't tell anybody. They know who did it. We know who did it. But they're not going to tell anybody who did it because it would be a major, major drop on NATO and on the United States. So, okay, if you're sitting here watching the little spin happen over on your screen, here's why. Notice it looks like we got King James from the 3-point line coming out of China, and then a bunch of dudes just peppering stuff in from Europe and Russia into the United States, and it is very active today. and even getting a couple things from South America too. But we are getting the brunt of it. Notice everything seems to be coming inbound and not outbound. When we first watched this map, we watched a little bit of both. We were volleying stuff, they were volleying stuff. Right now, it is all one way, and it's probably because we're getting hit so hard that it's very hard to get anything out to counter the strike. So, all right, here's another one for you. We were just talking about the fact that the Intel chips have plummeted because personal computer sales are down. And then we talk about U.S. airports targeted by suspected Russian cyber attacks. We're looking at the cyber map. Like I said, they're starting to hit airports. They're hitting the soft target, so to speak, from a cyber perspective. Now, this is another data point for you. Trans-Pacific shipping rates plunged 75% as the U.S. retail demand falters. We talked about this. This is another proof that we saw it coming. When I showed you the ships were not coming out of China, coming to the United States, that our ports were going empty with Chinese ships. That was a leading indicator. Then we saw Walmart and Amazon start to lay off people. Amazon laid off 100,000 people in one quarter. And then we have Walmart canceling over $1 billion worth of orders because they can't get it in stock. It's sitting on their books, so they're wiping that out. This is further proof we are in deep kimchi, okay? And we get out here and we look at the ocean side of it. This is going to be Shanghai, the busiest port in China. That's kind of, but notice as we look, before we saw just a sea of green, which means the ships are online, they're being tracked, whatever it may be. And then it started to go to these that are basically offline and sitting, but it doesn't stop there. We get kind of off the coastline here a little bit, and you can see these are continuing to pepper out there, and they're everywhere. It's a lot of them, really. If you get in closer, they actually expand in. But yeah, these are ships that are unspecified that are sitting out. Notice it just continues on and on and on. And that's because they're not being utilized. And so they're sitting idle and they're offline. Right now, there are some military stuff in there that may be unspecified, but it's not the lion's share. Most of that's going to be cargo and oil tankers. And then look here in this general area, the amount of ships. It's just a ghost town or a graveyard, whatever you want to call it, where they're just parking them because they don't have enough product exiting or coming in to keep them busy. And so they just go empty. But look at that. That's why this right here, that's exactly why. And I said this 4 months ago that this was coming. And so here it is, which means our economy is about to plummet. I think they're propping it up right now because of the election stuff. We're going to get past the election, November, December, and you're going to see things start to drop out. We're going to be missing a lot of numbers in retail. So, okay, let's get over the base stuff and start talking about kind of the troop movements and what's going on there. Definitely an uptick. This is going to be Biggs Army Airfield. Just notice we got a lot of flights coming inbound, Sun Country, Atlas Air. We've got Hillwood back in the mix again, Allegiant Air. And then we get down here, we've got an Omni coming in from San Juan, Puerto Rico. I don't know what that is. That could be bringing some troops back. I think at the hurricane, we flew some 31 Bravos out there for basically it's a military police, basically to just kind of keep law and order because the island got hit pretty hard. And I think these are the guys coming back, or at least the rotation of it coming back. Okay. If we look at departures, Sun Country, we get down here. We've got another Atlas Air. We've got the Hillwood boys leaving, headed out to Laredo. We've got another the Allegiant. Looks like that one's bailing out, going to Asheville. And that kind of gives us an idea what it looks like. We get into Tuesday. We only had a Atlas Air come in. And actually these other two right here, Hillwood and Allegiant. So this was from Tuesday. So yeah, just chalk that in and add it to all the stuff that we've already got on the arrival board here coming in today. And so very, very active. Let's get over to Ramstein, see what's going on there. This kind of tells a story. Now, I will tell you this. I am finding out, and I can't show you this because it would not be good to do, okay? But I am finding out that some of these camber flights are not just troops. They're being masked because they're carrying weapons or explosives. and you don't want that out there as just a regular, like the Atlas Airs are flying in. They're probably carrying equipment and stuff as well as explosives, but things they don't want you seeing. They're bumping it out there, and they're masking it under these camber flights to some locations. Again, I can't go into detail on it, but it just an indication that there's a lot more stuff out there moving than we're seeing. Okay, and so nonetheless, this is going to be Ramstein. Check it out. You're going to see RAF. This is coming inbound from England. It's a camber flight, another camber flight. So we got dose camber flights, 2 reach flights, C-17s, heavy movers, bringing stuff in, and then leaving. That's a 777-200 headed to destination unknown. We'll look at that here in just a minute. If we expand the arrival board just to see what has been coming in since our last meet, that is going to be on Tuesday. We just had one camber flight come in. That came in from Baltimore, Washington, 777-200. All right. Now, over to Poland. This is where it gets really interesting because you're going to see a boatload of camber flights coming in. Check this out. Now, we kind of get down the board. Let's see here. Air Transport International, Washington Dulles. That's a U.S. flight, but that's a small one. Let's get on down here a little further. And we've got camber flight, 747-400. So that's either troops or something else. Camber flight from Anchorage. Another camber flight. So this stuff is not going through Ramstein anymore. A lot of it is going and out to that forward operating base there in Poland. And then again, you can see on the outswing here, a lot of, there's Atlas Air. As we get on down, let's see what else we got. That's going to be Kaleta Air. These are 747-400s headed to Istanbul, Turkey. And then look at the en route stuff. Let's see if we got anything. Not seeing anything en route. So we're good there. Let's go back up here. I want to expand this. So let's see what we've had just in the last, since this is Tuesday. So we've got, there's an Air Transport International 767-300 and nothing else. Okay, that's okay. A lot of camber flights. So if you get on down the lot here, another camber. Yeah, got a lot of stuff coming in to that location. A lot of stuff. All right, let's move on out. We're blowing past the 30-minute mark. I apologize for that, but we got a lot to cover today. So let's see. This is going to be Guam. I'm not seeing any. I do have an Omni that is departing, headed back to Anchorage. An Atlas Air that's headed to Seoul, Korea. And that's going to be a 747-400. A couple Navy logistics birds. Another camber flight leaving, headed to Saipan. And then one headed out to, again, Seoul, Korea. And that's another Atlas Air flight. So we're still continuing to beef things up in that region as well. And let's see. These are going to be your camber flights. Again, coming out of Ramstein, Anchorage. So this looks like these are probably troops coming back, doing rotation, coming out of Anchorage. Maybe not. You never can tell. Over to the Omnis. We've got a lot of stuff out here. This just went a little hot. I was looking at it an hour ago and there was nothing on the board. So we got one, it looks like departing. We've got coming out of Guam, 2 coming out of Anchorage. And then this one headed out of Puerto Rico. We saw that coming. It was on the board at Biggs Army Airfield. Okay. Circle the wagons on that one. Over here to the UK side of the house. It is a little lighter than it was an hour ago. Again, a lot of movement still. We got 5 UK flights, all headed into, looks to be the Middle East. Right? Navy logistics all over the place. We got some stuff going on down here in the Middle East. Got some stuff. Looks like that one's headed across the drink. It's hitting that arch as it comes out of UK. I think that is the UK. Could be Ireland, but nope, Scotland actually. Glasgow, Scotland. Right. That's going to be the Navy. It looks like we got one headed southbound into the Caribbean also. So, right. And the Ruskies. I only got one. This bad dude left out of Moscow a little while ago and looks to be headed across. That is Kazakhstan. Don't know where he is headed. It is dark, nighttime there. This makes it a little hard to see because of the nighttime piece to that, but don't know where he's headed. We'll continue to watch after the. All right. Now let's load up Leo Labs. I did put a link to this because that was part of their terms for sharing in the description. If you want to go here and check it out, let me take away the beams. What we figured out is these beams are what are tracking the movement of the satellites. And it's how they know their speed and their direction and their altitude and all that kind of stuff. So we'll turn the beams off and instruments off. But we're going to look closely at this. The reason I'm bringing this up is because there has been another brunt of rubbish put out by real fake news and talking about the Russians shooting down the Starlink satellites over their area, which was completely made up, fabricated. But I just want to point out, these are all the Starlink satellites that are out there. It's absolutely insane. And I've got it set by country of origin. You can see these are all just U.S. satellites, all Starlink. These are where you get that trail that everybody sees at night, you know, heading across the sky. But these are all, you can just look around the world. It is pretty remarkable. Let me do this. I'm going to take it off of that. There you go. Object type, a little easier to see on the eyes, as you can see these trains that are running through. Yeah, I highly doubt any of these were shot down. That would be all over the news if they did that. And even Musk, who, you know, the dude would have something to say about it if they were taking his stuff out. So nonetheless, this is nothing but Starlink. It's insane the amount of Starlink satellites that are up over the United States. And if we just clear that and look at the rest of the space junk that's out there, this thing is spectacular. But look at the amount of debris that floats around our planet. Now, this is everything from rocket bodies to payloads to debris to unknowns, as well as satellites. It's absolutely incredible the amount of stuff we have sent into space. And so you could imagine if an EMP hit us, it would look like the stars were falling out of the sky. And yes, that is a biblical. So, all right. Now, listen, I've had a couple folks, I have no relationship to these guys, although I use them personally for myself and my wife. But I've had a couple folks ask me about their families who are in Europe and over in some of the areas that are, you know, they're not hot yet, but they're getting a lot of immigrant movement and they could potentially go hot. I will just tell you, go out to globalrescue.com and get some insurance for your travel stuff. It doesn't just cover your flights and stuff. These guys will actually come pick you up if something breaks out. If you get sick and you can't get on a flight, it's not very expensive for what you get. I got 12 months worth of coverage for all of my travel, which is, I don't have, it'll come me for 12 trips. And I think I paid about $1,200 for this thing. And so that includes my wife. But they send in basically former operators that are, you know, highly skilled and trained. They come in on a flight. They'll pick you up off a mountaintop, do whatever. Again, I have no affiliation to these guys. I just would recommend it to anybody that is about to travel internationally, just to have this in your hip pocket in case you need it to get out. Like I said, I'm using it when I go to Israel. I hopefully don't have to use it, but I've got it in my quiver, so to speak. So, okay, I know this was a long one, went 48 minutes today. I apologize for the length of this, but like I said, there are a lot of moving pieces right now, and I still didn't cover it all. Don't forget to, if you don't have the app yet, it is a free download. You can actually go out there and grab it. It's for both Apple and for your Android. And it's, you just basically anything that if you want to do, read the blogs, you want to get push notifications, anytime I'm live, anything that I put out there, it all comes through this, as well as those weekly SITREP reports that have all of the stories I didn't cover in addition to the ones I do cover in my SITREP. So again, just go out there to your app store. You can key in Werx. It should pull it right up and it'll load very quickly. And again, it is free, 90 free. So, all right, listen, that's it. You guys be safe out there. Keep that powder dry and stay frosty. Talk soon. God bless. Monkey out. Check out the latest gear and products monkeyworksus.com.